Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a reality most people wouldn't survive. The sound of steel doors echoed down the long concrete hallway of Red River Penitentiary, one of America's oldest and most dangerous prisons. It was 3:47 a.m. when the night shift guard, Officer Reynolds, noticed something wrong. Cell Block D was supposed to be silent, but tonight there was a faint tapping, rhythmic, repetitive, like a message from inside the walls. When Reynolds reached cell 218, he froze. The inmate assigned to that cell, Marcus Ghost Hale, a convicted murderer serving life without parole, was gone. The steel bars were intact, the lock was unbroken, but his bed was perfectly made and a small folded note lay on top of the pillow. It read, "You can't keep a ghost locked forever." Alarms roared through the prison. Inmates were forced against the walls, guards sprinted through corridors, and the warden was called from his home miles away. Hale's escape was impossible, or so everyone thought. By morning, a full lockdown was in effect. Every camera feed was pulled, every guard questioned, but somehow there was no trace of Hale leaving his cell block. No footage, no witnesses, nothing. The FBI arrived within hours. Special Agent Laura Beckett, known for cracking high-profile disappearances, took charge. Her first move was simple: retrace Hale's past. What she found painted a terrifying picture. Hale wasn't just any inmate. Before his arrest, he was part of a violent gang operating across 3 states, specializing in high-stakes robberies and contract killings. But in prison, he'd become something else: quiet, calculating, and disturbingly respected by other inmates. He knew things, one prisoner told Beckett. Stuff about guards, schedules, families. Beckett's gut told her this wasn't an escape, it was a message. But to who and why, she couldn't tell. Later that night, an emergency call came through the prison radio. "We've got movement in the old isolation wing." That part of the facility had been sealed off for over a decade after a fire killed 6 inmates. Beckett and her team pushed through the dust-filled corridor, their flashlights cutting through darkness. The smell of burnt concrete lingered. On the far wall, they found fresh graffiti written in what looked like rust or something worse.
"He never left." As the lights flickered, a scraping sound echoed from behind a corroded door marked D Block, restricted. Beckett's hand trembled as she reached for the latch. The hinges screamed as the door creaked open, revealing a small, sealed chamber. Inside was a single chair, chains on the floor, and a video camera aimed directly at it. The red recording light was blinking. She hit play. The screen showed Marcus Hale, smiling. "If you're watching this, then you've already lost," he said calmly. Beckett's heart pounded. The timestamp on the video? 3 hours from the future. The video kept playing, static cutting through Marcus Hale's calm voice. Behind him, the same isolation room flickered in the background. Same chair, same chains, same walls. "You built this place to hold monsters," Hale said, his eyes locked on the camera. "But what happens when the monsters start wearing uniforms?" The video glitched, the frame jumping forward. For a half-second, Beckett swore she saw someone else standing behind Hale, a guard, face hidden under a shadowed cap. Then the screen went black. She rewound it twice. The shadow was there each time. By sunrise, Red River was crawling with federal agents. News crews gathered outside the gates, speculating about how a maximum security inmate had vanished without breaking a single lock. Inside, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Guards whispered, inmates refused to speak, and somewhere, buried under layers of fear and silence, a secret was starting to bleed through. Officer Reynolds, the same man who first found the empty cell, was the first to crack. During interrogation, he admitted he'd been approached by an anonymous caller 3 weeks earlier. The voice on the phone promised him 50 grand to forget to check the cameras during a certain shift. Reynolds never received the money. But that night, someone had left an unmarked envelope in his locker containing only a photo. a blurred image of his teenage daughter walking home from school. When Beckett saw the photo, her blood ran cold. Whoever orchestrated this wasn't just freeing a prisoner, they were controlling the people inside. Meanwhile, Hale's cell was examined again. This time, forensic techs discovered something hidden in the vent behind his bed. A flash drive, sealed in plastic. Beckett plugged it into her encrypted laptop. The folder's name read, Project Echo. Inside were scanned prison documents, old yellowed records dating back to 1999, the year of the fire that closed D Block. It revealed a secret program approved by former wardens, behavioral control experiments on high-risk inmates.
According to the files, prisoners were subjected to isolation, sensory deprivation, and drug-induced conditioning, all to test how far the human mind could bend before breaking. The experiments were supposedly shut down after the fire killed 6 test subjects. But the names on the list didn't match the official death records. One of the names, Marcus Hale. Beckett's hands shook as she scrolled. Hale wasn't supposed to be alive. He was listed as one of the 6 who died in that fire. Just then, her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. He was never your prisoner. You were his. At that exact moment, the prison's power cut out. The lights flickered, the emergency sirens howled, and the control room monitors filled with static. When the backup generator kicked in 30 seconds later, Beckett and her team rushed to the surveillance hub, only to see something that made everyone stop breathing. On the live feed from cell 218, Marcus Hale was sitting calmly on his bed, staring straight into the camera. He hadn't escaped at all. But as the warden leaned closer to the screen, Hale smiled again, the same slow grin from the video. Then he lifted his hand, holding Officer Reynolds' missing key card. Before anyone could react, the feed cut to black. Beckett whispered, "How is that possible? We searched that cell." The head of tech interrupted, pale and shaking. "That's not live footage. The timestamp's from tomorrow." The prison went into chaos. Every door clanged shut, alarms screamed through concrete, and red warning lights bathed the walls in blood-colored flashes. Agent Laura Beckett pushed through a wave of panicked guards toward the control center. The monitors were looping static again, the same timestamp from the next day, the same flickering shot of Marcus Hale sitting calmly in his cell. "Cut power to Block D now!" Beckett shouted. But the command center was no longer responding. The system wasn't being hacked from outside. It was being controlled from inside the prison's own network.
A technician's voice trembled. "Agent Beckett, someone's overriding the lockdown protocols using the old Project Echo access codes." Beckett froze, the same codes that had been terminated 26 years ago. She and 2 tactical officers raced towards cell block D. The heavy air smelled like metal and sweat. Inmates pounded on their cell doors, shouting that the ghost was back. Some swore they saw him walking the tiers. Others said his voice echoed from the speakers, whispering, "You can't keep a ghost locked forever." When Beckett reached Hale's cell, it was open, empty again. On the wall above the bed, written in black marker, was a single phrase: "He traded their silence for freedom." Moments later, the power flickered and a low humming started. The floor vibrated. Beckett looked up and saw surveillance drones activating in the corridor, small prototypes the prison had been testing but never deployed. Each one bore a stamp, Ecosystem Test Unit. The drones turned toward her team, red sensors glowing. "Move!" she yelled, pulling the officers back as sparks exploded. Within seconds, every screen in the control hub lit up, displaying recorded interviews from years earlier. Guards, wardens, even psychologists, all talking about Echo, the experiment to erase violent tendencies through neural conditioning. But instead of reforming inmates, it had turned them into shells, programmable, obedient, and aware.
Hale wasn't just a prisoner. He was one of their first test subjects, and the only one who woke up remembering everything. A new video began to play, overriding all other feeds. Hale sat in the isolation chair again, staring straight into the lens. "You thought I was your experiment," he said quietly, "but you were mine." Behind him, the camera panned, revealing several guards unconscious, their uniforms stripped. One of them was Officer Reynolds. His badge was gone. Beckett's team stormed into the isolation wing, guns raised. The smell of ozone burned their noses. Then, in the center of the corridor, they saw the impossible. 3 men dressed in guard uniforms walking calmly toward the exit. One of them turned his head slightly. Marcus Hale. Beckett shouted, "Freeze!" He smiled, tossed something on the ground, a small black device blinking red. The blast knocked out the lights again. When emergency crews regained control 40 minutes later, every door in Red River Penitentiary was open. Every camera feed was wiped, and Marcus Hale was gone. A week later, the FBI received a package, no return address. Inside was a single prison ID badge belonging to Agent Laura Beckett. A note was taped to the back. "The walls remember everything." Beckett stared at it for a long time. Then she looked up at the live feed of Red River being rebuilt. Cell 218 had been sealed permanently. But as the maintenance camera zoomed in, viewers could see something faintly scrawled beneath the fresh coat of paint. "Project Echo lives." The screen faded to black. They thought he was behind bars, but maybe the bars were built for someone else. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe because the truth behind Red River isn't over yet.